Welcome to the New Orleans Saints podcast, presented by Rouse's Markets. You'll hear from players, coaches, broadcasters, and writers that cover the NFL daily. The New Orleans Saints podcast starts right now. Here's your host, Erin Summers.
Welcome into the New Orleans Saints podcast. I'm Erin Summers. The Saints got on the field Tuesday to start prep for the game at Tennessee this weekend. Shifting the schedule slightly because of the holiday, head coach Kellen Moore gave the team off Thursday for Christmas and swapped it with their usual off day on Tuesday. Tight end Foster Moreau and defensive tackle Brian Brzee are both dealing with injuries from the Jets game and are likely to miss the Titans game this weekend. As the week continues, we'll have a better idea on who is in and out for this weekend's matchup. Due to injuries and departures, the rookie class has stepped up in a big way this season, and Coach Moore said their success starts with the type of people that they are.
I think what I've loved about this group is this group's made up of a bunch of big-time people that have faced adversity in life and in football and college. They have the right mindset. They have the right approach. They've gotten better each and every opportunity they've had. They got the right mindset. And so I think when you have a bunch of guys with that type of character, it pulls you through and allows those guys to, you can look at a lot of these guys, what their September football looked like and what their December football looks like. And, credit to those guys that are getting better.
Quarterback Tyler Shuck is one of those rookies, and he talked about an area he has grown in over his 7 games.
I think just understanding the importance of keeping the ball moving forward and how important and vital negative plays are for a defense and how that can throw things off, whether it's penalties, sacks, turnovers, all that stuff. And I think anytime we can kind of keep the ball moving forward, me doing my job of extending plays, finding quick throws, taking those shots, I think it just sets drives apart. And you don't want to be in those third and long situations where, it's tough sledding. So I think that's, for me, it's been a really, really cool learning moment as far as, you have to be so dialed as far as that, preach that way because, defenses and, defensive fronts are too good to be able to just, throw it too many times where you're just in drop back the whole game.
For today's podcast guest, I am joined by Saints Hall of Famer and Super Bowl winning cornerback Jabari Greer to talk about the Saints, his teammate Tracy Porter, who just also went into the Hall of Fame, and what Greer is focused on these days. Joined now by Saints legend Jabari Greer. It is so good to have you on the New Orleans Saints podcast. How are you?
I'm doing well. Happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And I appreciate you working around all the holiday schedule and everything.
I know. It is a little crazy. When you went back to your playing days, do you remember when schedules got shifted around and how that affected maybe your routine going into the game?
Oh, well, when we're playing, essentially the only thing that really matters, what takes precedence is uh how we're going to address and how we're going to line up for the next game and who we're gonna play and all these things. But are we talking about specifically like the television schedules and like game schedules and like?
Well, like a practice schedule this week. The
Oh,
Saints
okay.
canceled practice on Thursday. They're moving it to a Tuesday practice, so you don't get that usual day off there. So just kind of
Oh,
changing up
okay.
your
Well,
usual.
yeah. So usually when they would do that, it would always be kind of in conjunction with us being able to spend more time with our family. So it would
Mhm.
always kind of work out in a way that we could spend that, those days that actually, those days that matter with our family. Tuesday is usually the day off. So being able to practice on a Tuesday, I think the only thing that really is kind of a issue about playing practicing on a Tuesday is that your body's still sore, right?
Mhm.
That Monday it feels like you've been in a car wreck. Tuesday, you can move a little bit, but it still sucks, right? Your body's still hurting. And so I think really the only thing that's kind of that's a negative to moving on Tuesday is that you're still trying to work out some of those kinks, you're still trying to get loose, you're still trying to be able to move fast. But being able to get that Christmas morning off, like, I mean, these are grown men. A lot of these men have kids and like will
Yeah.
be waking up and their kids will be waking up at 5 o'clock in the morning, going under the tree, and they want to be there, right? They want to be there. And so coaches understand that. And I think that, being able to get your joints moving a little bit earlier in the week is well worth being able to see your kids open up those presents on Christmas Day.
Yeah. I mean, some of the best memories, right? You want to be a
Yeah,
part of
yeah,
that for sure.
of course.
When you look at how the Saints season has gone overall, right now they're on a 3-game win streak, but they're
Nice.
not in playoff contention. They struggled a little bit early in the year. They're settling into some of the younger players here. How important is closing the season out with some more wins and riding that momentum into the offseason into next year?
Well, I think it's everything. I think it really is important. Um, I would say this. I haven't watched much football at all. I would let me preface by saying that. So I'm not going to get into the specifics. What I would say is that losing in the NFL, specifically being on a streak towards the end of the year, sucks. We were we were a 13 and 0 team going into week 13, week 14, and we lost the last three games of the season in a Super Bowl year, right? In a Super Bowl year. But you would have thought that we had the worst record in the NFL those last three games. The amount of tension there was in the locker room, the
Mm,
amount of the way in which we knew we had to get something together, right? It never feels good to lose, but it never feels good to lose at the end of the season, right? Because we know like that's the lasting taste that you have on your mouth. That's a lasting taste that coaches have. That's a lasting idea, image that they see when they think of this particular player, right? Okay, man, down
mm,
the stretch, this guy couldn't make it happen. Down the stretch, when we needed him, that's what actually matters. And so, um, you want to be able to put yourself in playoff position. You want to be able to win the division. You want to be able to do all these things. But specifically, if you're not fighting for those spots, coaches remember what happened, how you finished. Everybody remembers how you finished. And so a lot of these guys are playing for their professional futures.
yeah.
Like if somebody can string in a three game where they get two picks or three picks, I guarantee they're gonna get first dibs in that training camp spot next year.
Yeah. No, you can make a play down the stretch, then that is the last impression that you're leaving on the coaching staff. And we just had the final game in the Superdome for the season. Last two
Yeah.
were on the road. And Cam Jordan, 15th year now, he had about 40 people there cheering him on, celebrating with his family, his friends. I know he hasn't said what's going to happen, what next year, doesn't have a contract past this year. But when you know you're at near the end, how hard is that to grasp?
Oh, it's I love Cam. And and Cam used to do this thing when we were in the locker room, right? Cam, I don't know if it was me specific, but Cam used to always kind of make mention of guys getting old, right? He would always like have little pokes and little prods of like, yeah, I don't know what that is, JG. I'm like, I'm not old like you. He would always do things like that. So it's crazy. It is crazy to hear that Cam has been in the league 15 years. It's like, yeah, it really is. It really is just like a perspective of time that just sometimes baffles me. But one thing that's really interesting about the game is that, you very, very seldomly um, do you age. I mean, I guess very seldomly s- are you able to get out physically before you actually get out emotionally, right? There's many times you get forced out,
Mhm.
but a lot of times there are players who, and this happened to me specifically, where, after a certain amount of time, spiritually, emotionally, it takes a toll on a person, right? And I think that Cam has done a good job of making sure, he's obviously in outstanding shape, takes care of his body, he loves the game. And but if this is his last go around, then you could you know, I could almost guarantee. Well, I wouldn't speak for Cam, but I know for me that this was something that I was thinking about. I played 10 years, and so I was thinking about this in year eight, right? I was thinking
Mhm.
about this year eight. I was thinking about this year nine, and it became real at year 10. And well, I guess not. Fortunately, my injury was kind of made it definitive for me, but thankfully he's been able to stay healthy. But just I can only imagine the weight of, training camp, the weight of practice, the weight of expectation, just the weight of the world, right? The weight of professional football, how heavy that has been on him for these last years. So if this is his last one, then I would imagine he's been thinking about this for some time, right? Because I mean, it is, there's a period that that one has once they've been away from the game for a while, right? After the first year, the first 2 or 3 years after I retired, it was like, you know what, man, do I still got it? I wonder.
Mhm.
But then I don't know how long it took, but at one point it clicks, right? And you become so distant from it where you look back and you look at the game and you see the way these guys run and the way they throw their body against each other, and you think to yourself, I have no idea how I ever did that. Like
Yeah.
you become so distant from it. It's like that is crazy. That's crazy talk. But I think that Cam, he's played at a high level for a very long time. But I just imagine that if this is his last go around, remember we were talking about this last year, right? We were talking about this
Mhm.
last year and the year before that. I just imagine the weight and the spiritual kind of journey that he's went through, thinking about like his future and thinking about how much he actually wants, how closely he wants to hold on to
Mhm.
this football journey.
Yeah. You mentioned it. He's still been performing. He hit 130 total sacks this past Sunday and tackled or sacked his 51st different quarterback. So, I mean, he's been just crushing the game for
You've
quite
been
some
doing it?
time.
Yeah, 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 definitely. Yeah, that's great, and you want to be able to perform at a high level like that, that's you want to be able to walk out on your terms. It's always great to be able to walk out and those guys like, come back, we need you. And then
Mm,
instead of big guys being like, come on, you're done, right? You're
yeah.
done. So that's always a good feeling. There are very few people that get to walk out on their terms.
Mhm. When you look back at your time here, what's something that stands out to you? I mean, you're just inducted into the Saints Hall of Fame in 2023, so you had that honor. Was that something that you've been reflecting on more, or is it something in your
Oh,
playing career that you've remembered?
um, well, you know, I, I think what actually stands out the most, what I remember the most, is my initial fear coming to New Orleans. Um, B, I guess the spiritual, the emotional, the physical and mental transformation that I had as a man, while as a man, as a husband, as a father in New Orleans.
Mm,
And then C, how I was able to leave not only the field, but the city. And those are three kind of distinct moments in time that really had a very profound impact on me. So ultimately, the city fed me. I showed up and I did all I could for the city. And one thing that I took away, and it was like a takeaway, is that you invest in the city, and the city will invest in you. New Orleans poured into me, and it
mm,
changed my life. You're right. New Orleans changed my life. It really did. Not just the field. The team was one thing. It was great, but the city, the friends, the community, the way of life. Right. It was incredible.
You haven't been watching football, you said. You said
Oh,
you've been
no, no, no.
away from the game a little bit. So
I
what
have.
have you been doing?
Oh, I have, wow, I mean, it's been, like I'm a father. And so as a father, it's, you do and I'm a man who is living this life, and sometimes it feels like I'm doing everything and nothing at the same time, right? I'm doing it all and nothing at all. But we recently moved, and my kids are, I mean, I have a daughter that graduated excuse me, a daughter that graduated college last year. I have a son that's graduating college this year. I have a son
Mm.
that's going to be a senior next year. There's a junior in high school, a son that's in a ninth grader. My daughter's a sixth grader. And so, like, I am investing individually in them, investing in myself. I'm creating, writing. I am moving towards um, my purpose in my life. I am really trying to continue to grow as a man. And establish, like, really learn about who this Jabari Greer guy is. Because one thing that football does, like, football was incredible. Professional football was incredible, and just what sports in general did for me, for my life. It changed my
Mm.
life. It changed my children's life, and and through God's grace, it had changed my children's life. Right? It was something that was very impactful. But one thing it also does, it can easily delay me learning about myself, right? My true self. And it's not either or. It's not like I either play football or I learn about myself. I was learning about myself through the game as well, and it revealed a lot about me, what I was willing to endure, what I was willing to give for something that I believed, um uh my desire for individualism in the atmosphere of a team, right?
Mm.
Like, how do I express myself individually in, like, this corporate atmosphere, and now that those kind of that it's not restrictions, that those boundaries are kind of like
Sure.
no longer, now that they're kind of, no, those boundary lines are kind of like replaced with other ones. I'm starting to learn a lot more about who I am, and I'm being introduced to this Jabari fella in a different way. So, really, the journey of discovery has been something that's kind of been consuming me for the last few years.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of growth and a lot of pain and a lot of tears and a lot of joy and a lot of, like, that stuff. But I'm thankful. I am thankful.
It's funny that you bring up trying to figure out how you can be an individual within the locker room setting, within the team
Yeah.
setting, because I remember Roman Harper said that you wanted to be known as the most interesting
No, 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 no,
man
no,
in
no,
the
no,
room.
no, 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 no. I didn't want to be known as the most interesting man in the room. Roe called me the most interesting guy
Mm.
in the NFL. That's what he called me. So, and like, I guess that, yeah, that. So, yeah, yes, I guess that is a kind of small micro. That's like a small snapshot of, like, of 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 my experience in the locker room. Like, like, those, I always felt othered, right? And I loved my guys, and my guys loved me. Um, but my journey has been, like, one of, like, okay, so where do I fit in? And the
Mm.
truth is that like, it made I'm learning the difference between, isolation and solitude, right? And so, at first, I am learning about, like, how to wholly and fully be comfortable and accept who I am. And
Mm.
so the truth is like, Roman kind of, like, hinted to it, but I could be, it's not weird. I could be eccentric, right?
Okay.
Not even eccentric. I could be very, I could just be a little different. I mean, I could see the world a little different. I see beauty in everything. And so, there are many times that, expressing your individuality in like the locker room setting is not it's not really it's not really appreciated in a sense. And so it's kind of like the military in that, like at the core, we're all trying to get on the same page. So
Uh-huh.
any like individualism, any kind of weirdom, I guess, any type of like anything that doesn't fit into this box is like, come on, dude, we don't have time for that. And so now that the world is open and available, it's like, okay, let's explore. Let's see
Hmm.
what this is. And there are a lot of guys who are doing a great job of that. Roman's doing a great job of that, right?
Yeah.
Malcolm's doing a great job of that. Vilma's
Hmm.
doing a great job of that. I'm sure there are a lot more guys that are doing a really good job of like finding themselves outside the league. And so I'm really proud of him and I'm happy for him. And shout out to my guy Tracy Porter for just getting in the Hall of Fame. Like my God, left side, man. Like Tracy, no, Tracy was on the right side. Right side, like Tracy, that was my dude. Like
Hmm.
that's and to be able to say that we like that, like how incredible is that? To be on that defense, to have a guy that's in the Saints Hall of Fame, to be in the Saints Hall of Fame, and now to be here talking to y'all, like God has been incredible for us. It's incredible.
What is that bond like with the players that are in the Hall of Fame with you?
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I'm sure that everybody has their individual bond. But Joe Vitt, he was our linebackers coach, assistant coach. He's a legend
Hmm.
in the Saints. He said, "You win together, you walk together for life. You walk together forever," and that's true. Like if you win together, you win big things. You walk together for life. Like I will always remember those guys in our seasons that the season that we had. Um, I think that staying like we live in an age right now, social media, where it's so easy to keep your eyes on a person, but really not develop any deep roots with them,
Sure.
And so that reminds me, like, do I need to call Tracy? I need to call Jenks. I need to call Roman, like check in, see how they doing, right?
Hmm.
Because life can get busy. We got kids and we all have lives and things that we're doing, but it's we need more than just to be able to meet up on there's more to relationship than just meeting up for the anniversaries, right?
Hmm.
There's seeing how kids are doing, seeing how how men's hearts are, and checking in with them. So I guess that's a good reminder. This is a good reminder for me to give my guys a call and see how they doing.
Yeah. You mentioned that the city really became a big part of you and what you are, who you became. What was it about the city that resonated with you?
The thing about the city that really resonated with me. One thing that I never experienced. Sometimes you don't know what you're missing until you experience it. Um, and I had never understood what it was like to actually celebrate life, right? To actually be in celebration. As not only not as a moment, but as a way of life.
Mhm.
And man, I remember just being in New Orleans and every day, every day is like a celebration. Every day is culturally,
Mhm.
every day is like a celebration of life. It's a party, to the fact that I'm getting my picnic chair. My picnic chairs and my lawn chairs in my car, in my trunk, right? Because you
Yeah.
never know
Never
when
know.
something's gonna pop it up. Well, you never know when something's gonna happen. Like I live in a big city right now, and people we're not having lawn chairs, right? We're not having lawn chairs in the backyard. You're not having second lines. You're not having, like that is very distinct and very specific to New Orleans, is that just they just have this culture of
Mhm.
celebration. And so I think that was one thing that has stayed with me for my life. Like I want to celebrate life. Like there is so much to celebrate. I don't need to take things so seriously, right? Live lightly, live easy.
No, I love that. And I appreciate that about the city as well. Everyone's always in a good mood. having a good time, ready for a good time. And we appreciated all that you did here when you played for the Saints and you jumping on the podcast with me today. Thank
Oh
you.
yeah, sure. So appreciate you having me. Thank you.
Appreciate Jabari joining me. Friday, we'll be back with a preview of the Titans. And I hope everyone has a Merry Christmas in the meantime.
Thanks for listening to the New Orleans Saints podcast presented by Rouse's Markets. Join us 3 times per week on NewOrleansSaints.com, the Saints mobile app, or you can download the podcast on iTunes. We'll see you next time, right here on the New Orleans Saints podcast, presented by Rouse's Markets.